I got into the second monitor and it's not as straightforward as the first one. There are no capacitors that are obviously physically damaged on this one. You can see right here, you can see it on the back side of that board in that same area that's darkened. That's from heat. So about the only thing you could do on this is go in and replace all these capacitors. You have to lift at least one leg on a capacitor to check it for proper value. You're going to go ahead and do that on these that are soldered through and the leads are cut off. You might as well just desolder them and replace them. There's no way you can lift one leg on that capacitor. You might as well just, like I say, take both legs loose. I will check it with the meter after I get it out and see if that's my culprit. I don't have 25 volt. Probably this one might be a 1000 microfarad. All my capacitors are 16 volts. Need to get an assortment of 25 volts, but I do have more of the 1000 microfarad. So I'm going to at least take this out and replace it. I don't know if I'm going to order these caps and possibly this one. That's the first thing you do on a board like this. And because the other board, this capacitor obviously failed, and this is an area of high heating, it looks like, especially from this component here. That is likely the culprit. So I may just dive bomb it, replace this one real quick, put it back together, see if that fixes it. That's called troubleshooting. Come on. And if that doesn't fix it, then I'll probably come back in and replace these other, there's 4, 5, 6 other capacitors on the board. Well, there's more. These little capacitors here hardly ever blow up. These aren't even electrolytic, I don't think. But when it gets down to that, it is time to get rid of the board. But that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's 8, 9 other capacitors on here. You're talking less than $3. 9 times about 30 cents or so. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to replace this one because I have a cap to replace that. Put it back together, see what happens. Other than that, it'll probably set. See, I have a spare monitor even, although it is a 12-inch monitor. I do have a spare monitor at this moment. One I took off when I fixed the other monitor earlier today. Then I'll decide if I'm going to go ahead and if you replace all the capacitors and that doesn't fix it, then you're down to checking. I mean, you can pretty much look at a resistor. A resistor will open usually when it goes bad. It will basically just burn up. Be 2 wires sticking out of a board with nothing between it where the resistor used to be. So you can pretty much look at a resistor. And some of these disc capacitors like this one right here, you can look at them and see that they're not damaged. They will usually burst. This resistor would burst. Another one in there. But once you get down to troubleshooting the diodes like that one, there are a couple of inductors in here. Not sure what those are. Come on, focus. That's probably some of the power supply type stuff. That one's 250 volts. So again, you got to watch out inside these things. They can bite you enough to kill you. But I don't see any. No, start to say that resistor looks discolored, but it doesn't. So I'm going to recap the one cap, put it back together, see if that fixes it. And like I say, put it aside for a rainy day where I would just go ahead and replace these other capacitors, put it back together and see if that fixes it. And after that, see, we have these field effects transistors here on the power transistors on the big old heat sinks. That's really high voltage in there. Those could be bad. I'm just not going to troubleshoot that deeply. So I may only have fixed one monitor instead of two. Well, it's still a good savings though. On the other monitor I did resurrect. Well, there's that solder joint. I was trying to put less solder on it than I did earlier today. It's really too much solder. It's a good joint, but one on the left's a little better. About half that amount of solder. Oh boy. Well, we'll put it back together and see what happens. I got lucky. It was that capacitor. And that capacitor was keeping this monitor and the other monitor from turning on at all. So I did get away with just changing that one capacitor. That one didn't appear to be bad. So I'd have been in a real mess if I'd opened this one first. That's the end of monitor repair. Thank you all.